Hello, this is Domenico with Easynomics, and we're going to move on to scenario 2 in our illustration of allocative efficiency on a input market or labor market. Again, we're going to remember that the rule for allocative efficiency is producing where MB equals MC. And we know eventually the market will gravitate towards this point where supply equals demand. We'll have an equilibrium wage here, an equilibrium quantity here, and at this point also MC equals MB. But now let's illustrate a price or a wage that's above the free market equilibrium. All right, so let's draw that point right here. So we'll label that W1, wage 1. And at wage 1, we see that households are really willing to supply their labor at this point. Let's say we'll call that point B. You see, yeah. Households really increasing their quantity supplied up to that very high wage at point B. So lots of households willing to supply. So we'll call that Q2. Quantity supplied by households at Q2 at that high wage, but firms not willing to demand labor at that higher wage, which we see at point A. Okay, so here is Q1. So at a wage of W1, households increasing their quantity supplied up to point B, but firms not willing to demand labor at that higher wage up until point A. So again, we want to remember that demand firms are demanding labor, so since this is an input graph, and households are supplying labor. Okay. So at Q2, we notice that the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity being demanded. So at the quantity supplied at QS, we're going to go up, and we're going to notice, let's see, choose this one. We're going to notice that the marginal cost, all right, at point B is greater than the marginal benefit. So here we're seeing an overallocation. At Q2, which is the quantity being supplied, the marginal cost is greater than the marginal benefit. So that's what we call an overallocation. Households are providing too much of their labor into the market. Okay, so the welfare loss is this triangular area here. Society is seeing a waste of labor being provided into the labor market where it's just not being demanded. So this orange triangle is representative of what we call our welfare loss. Okay, so an overallocation, here we see that there is a excess supply. Overallocation, too much labor being provided, quantity supplied of labor being greater than quantity met, excess supply, and we know in economics that would put downward pressure on the wage. And the wage would fall from W1 to W2. And as that wage falls, households will be providing less. The quantity supplied will decrease from point B to point C. The quantity supplied along that supply curve decreasing to point C. And as the wage falls, firms will be willing to employ more labor because the cost of that labor has fallen. So the quantity demanded increasing along their demand curve from point A to point C. All right, quantity demand decreasing until at point C, supply S1 equals D1, marginal cost equals marginal benefit. It's allocatively efficient. At C1, we have an equilibrium quantity at Q3, where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded, and we have an equilibrium wage at W2. Okay, so let's go ahead and analyze this as we would for a paper exam. As can be seen, we have an input market or a labor market. On the x-axis, we're measuring quantity. On the y-axis, we're measuring wage. We have an upward sloping supply of labor by households labeled S1, which is equal to our marginal costs. We have a downward sloping demand curve labeled D1, which is equal to our marginal benefit. And we must remember that this is demand by firms, since this is an input graph. And we have a wage set at W1. At W1, the quantity supplied by households of labor is at Q2, and the quantity demanded of labor by firms is at Q1. So we notice that the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, meaning that there's excess supply. And we'll also notice that at Q2, where the quantity supply of labor is being provided, that the marginal cost is greater than the marginal benefit. So at Q2, where quantity supplied is being provided for labor, MC is greater than MB, thus there's an overallocation of labor resources generating a welfare loss, which is the shaded triangular area. That will cause that would put downward pressure on price from W1 to W2. And as the wage falls, the quantity supply of labor decreases from point B to point C, or from Q2 to Q3. And the quantity demanded by firms would increase from point A to point C, or from Q1 to Q3, until S1 equals D1, or where marginal cost equals marginal benefit, which is allocatively efficient, providing an equilibrium wage at W2 and an equilibrium quantity at Q3, where QS equals QD. All right. We'll go ahead in the next video to illustrate scenario 3, which will be an output graph, some type of output, some type of good or service. We'll look at a price set below the free market equilibrium, and in the next video after that, a price set above that equilibrium. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe, like, or to comment if you have a question.